Yo, peep game. Time for me to give my thoughts on who I think will be going to the Western Conference Finals. And I have to start with the more highlighted series, in my opinion, first because they're playing tonight. Nuggets against the Thunder. This has so many storylines. You got the top two MVP candidates facing each other. OKC has a great bench, a great depth. It's a strength and a weakness, especially in the playoffs. Usually, coaches shrink their depth to like 8-ish at most, but the Thunder could, in my opinion, the Thunder could do 9 with how well their depth is and how well they've built that team. And the Nuggets on the opposite side has arguably the best player in the NBA currently, and MVP candidate, averaged a triple double this year. Shea got the scoring title. The Thunder is the best team record wise in the league. Um, this got a lot of storylines, and it's gonna be some. Especially if people look on the internet on the reaction to this series, there's gonna be a lot of this. Either Shea or Jokic should have won the MVP, depending who wins this series, or that person's the real MVP and things of that nature. So I do think this is going to be like out in the Western Conference, um, the more highlighted series out of the two, just because you have two MVP candidates teams going against each other. I think this series is going to go at minimum 6, and honestly, I could see it going 7. Um, and I'm gonna say this: the X factors of the teams. I think they affect the Joker and Shea will somewhat cancel each other out because they're the best player on each team. But where I think the difference is the depth and how deep both teams can go. I think the not the Thunder. I think the Nuggets could probably go like a solid 7, maybe 8. I do think Aaron Gordon for the Nuggets will be the X factor, and off the bench, the X factor will be, in my opinion, will be Westbrook. Especially Game 7, he had, even though he only scored 16 points, he was efficient and he got 5 steals. Opportunistic defense. I do think, however, I got to go in at least 6, but I think it's gonna end at 7. I think this is gonna be a really good series. I think the series is going to be very nip and tuck. I really don't see a blowout coming in this series. I know I said that about Memphis and OKC. And OKC blew the doors off of off of Memphis in Game 1. 51 points is ridiculous. That shit ain't make no sense. However, man, I think the Thunder's depth is their X factor. I don't think they have necessarily a player that is an X factor per se. Maybe Williams for the Thunder, and maybe even Lou Dort, depending how well he guards Murray, and even Aaron Gordon or Michael Porter Jr., depending who gets hot from the field, shooting from the field. And for the Nuggets, it's pretty much all about Joker and everybody working as a complementary unit. I think this is going to be a great basketball series. I think this has the highlights of possibly being a classic series matchup in the last 5 or so 5-10 years maybe. It has to make us of that. Two MVP candidates, two really good teams. Man, but having said that, I think each game's going to be relatively close, but I gotta go with the Thunder. I think their depth is going to make a huge difference, especially when, yeah, yes. I mean, I know Joker and I know Murray can play 40 minutes in a playoff game, but I do think it makes a difference when you have players that could play 40 minutes in the playoffs when they're able to get much needed breaks, because if the key players for the Thunder go on the bench to take a rest from the starters, and then the second unit comes in. some of the key players from the second unit for the Thunder, like a Hartenstein, for example, I think can alleviate the three best players of the Thunder better and give them better rest. And I think the depth is going to be a little too much for the Nuggets to take. But like I said, I think it's going to be a close series, guys. You got two top three players, teams going against each other. Having said that, I have the Oklahoma City Thunder going to the Western Conference Finals. I got them winning this series in 7. And for the last series, I rather talked about the series first, but hey man, I don't make the NBA schedule. The Warriors against the Timberwolves. Whoo! This is gonna be interesting. It seems like Ant-Man's been on a mission trying to collect old head trophies, if you will. I mean, he beat a team LeBron was on that he was at least number 1 or 2 option on, and then the year before he beat KD's Suns in the playoffs and swept them, and he went and gentleman swept the Lakers. Whew. This is gonna be interesting. You got a quote unquote old head in Steph, and a young bull by Edwards, each best player each of their team. And I do think defense is going to dictate this series. Whichever team plays the better defense, in my opinion, I think it's going to be really key. So for the Timberwolves, I think McDaniels needs to be the main guy guarding Steph. I think you're going to really need Anthony Edwards' offense, even though I know Anthony Edwards prides himself on playing both sides of the ball. But I think the running around with chasing Steph across screens and going under screens and going over screens, depending where he's cutting at, that's going to take a lot from him, I think, and his offense might, diminish a bit. And he might, but if Anthony Edwards does guard Steph, I kind of expect like Anthony Edwards might have like somewhere between like during those games having between like maybe 20 to 30 points at the most, and not being and being more of a facilitator. I was trying to find a word. Being more of a facilitator, especially if he's like the main one trying to guard Steph. But I do think McDaniels is going to be the one that's going to take that assignment for the Wolves, and it's going to be real. It's going to be interesting to see because both teams got some dogs as far as like playing the defensive side of the ball, and Jimmy Butler and a Draymond. No matter how people may feel about him, or even maybe how I might even feel, he is a great defender. You can't take that away from him. But man, this series is a hard one to pick. I mean, I feel like this one's a pick 'em. However, I don't think this one's gonna go 7. I think 6 at the most. I do think each team, whichever team has the better game plan for sure. I think coach is going to really matter in this series a lot more than some of the other series, in my opinion, just because of how the matchups are. I think the Wolves can throw different bodies at Steph, and I don't think Golden State really has that advantage to be able to throw a bunch of bodies at Edwards. I don't think you want Draymond Green guarding Anthony Edwards, especially at this point in his career. Maybe it was like the mid 2010s, early 2010s. Maybe you want him taking that assignment, but I don't see that happening. I think Jimmy Butler's going to be probably the one that's guarding him, or trying to think who the other defenders are. But there's the main 2 defenders I could think of off the top of my head. Forgive me. However, I got this going 6. And it's a testament. This one to me is a pick 'em because both teams do play good defense, and the Warriors after the Jimmy Butler trade did get better defensively. But you know what? I'm gonna have to roll with the young boy on this one. I think the Wolves are gonna win this in 6. I really do, and I do think Anthony Edwards is like on a mission, and that team is too. They on a mission to get back to the Western Conference Finals. Um, but like I said, I got OKC in 7, and I got the Timberwolves in 6. Be easy, everybody. Deuces.